need to record the meeting. So Yevhen Borodin, Charm Labs, CaptiVoice is the brand, and Charm Labs is the name of the company. Is that correct?
Yeah, Charm Tech Labs is the official
Charm
name.
Tech Labs. Yeah.
We're trying not to promote that name. We're gonna probably eventually rename everything to Capti.
Right, that makes sense. All right, well, if you can maybe start with a quick introduction of the company, just a little bit about the history of the product, so some basic information that the student need to have, and then we will get into the questions and answers. And it seems like we already have some questions, so we'll get to them in a few minutes.
Oh, nice. I see the number of participants keeps growing.
One of the challenges sometimes we have, apparently our webinar subscription allows 100 people at a given time. And so we now consistently exceed the number of participants. So then have to stream it on Facebook and YouTube so people can watch it. But Monday morning is not the best time for the webinar. Obviously, people have classes, work, some of them are sleeping. So we have only a few participants now, but obviously we'll record it and the rest can watch the recording.
Okay, and do we have a full hour?
Yes, we have until the end of the hour. Yeah, we have another webinar at 12, so we have a full hour. Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't have to go in the full hour. I guess I don't want it to be a monologue, but I do have a few slides that probably would be easier to show. So I'm going to share my screen, talk about the company and the product we're working on.
Okay.
All right, can you see it?
Yep.
All right, so we are CaptiVoice, and we're helping empower students and teachers to raise literacy. It's a very ambitious goal to solve a very complex problem. So, but hopefully we can be a part of the solution. So what we are noticing in the United States that there's at least 2/3 of students in K through 12 who are reading below grade level. And I don't know if the situation is similar or different abroad, but no, this is almost a literacy crisis. The only reason why it's not a crisis per se is because it's been going on for decades. That students who are graduating high school are still unable to read at the high school level, and only about 30% of graduating seniors are able to read at the college level. And what we saw is that one of the reasons is because students have all the different abilities and they're taught in the same way. And instead of teachers just don't have the resources to personalize instruction for each and every student. So we've been trying to handle the personalization. So we've 2 years ago, when we participated in Next Culture, we were an accommodation tool helping students read more effectively, and those who participate in this project with us will get access to the system, so you'll get to experience that, and maybe it will help you in your education. We have a lot of college and graduate students using our product for reading productivity or accommodations if they have any kind of reading difficulties, or if they're learning English. So, but now, this year, we have expanded, pivoted as a company into the literacy market. So we realized that the bigger problem is literacy, not just helping students accommodate. Accommodating is like giving students a crutch. If you can't run, having difficulty walking, here's a crutch. You can move a little faster. But what's important is to help students improve, and you can't improve what you don't measure. So now, besides accommodating students, we can also help assess their reading skills, provide some strategy suggestions how to improve and actually improve the reading skills. And this is like a circular process that you have to keep repeating. Now, our product is a web-based solution, but it also has the iOS component to it. It's a little weaker and more of a accommodation product, but on the web product is much stronger. So when it helps students, teachers, and leadership in schools. So it's a pretty sophisticated all-in-one solution that has different layers to it, different reading support, such as text-to-speech. You can listen to anything. There's some writing support, vocabulary translation, integrates with different sources of content. So if you use Dropbox, a Google Drive, or OneDrive, you'll be able to access your content there. It has different administrative tools for administrators in schools, integrations with different systems like some of you are probably using Canvas or Blackboard as LMS, so we integrate with those. Then, of course, there's compliance, security, accessibility, privacy. So we've been very well recognized with numerous awards. We got many federal grant awards from National Science Foundation, Department of Education, ACL was the Department of Health and Human Services, NIH, lots of industry awards. We're named the best special needs solution back in 2017. And I even got, for the work of my team, I got the Innovator and the 35 from MIT Technology Review. But all these awards pale in comparison with the feedback we're getting and the feeling that you get when you get feedback from students and schools. So CaptVoice is replacing multiple apps schools are using and helping students who are below grade level to read and understand concepts. So it's a huge market. Just K through 12 alone in the US is at least $1 billion market for us. But the bigger market is the global market, and it also expands to higher education, consumer, and corporate markets. And yeah, these are our integration and channel partners who are helping us spread into the education market. But I'm most excited about our recent partner, is ETS, who's become our strategic investor as well. And
part of our partnership, the guys who do TOEFL and GMAT and GRE?
Yes, that is correct. They're based in Princeton, New Jersey, and they're, I think, one of the biggest nonprofits. They do, I don't know, 60, 70 million tests per year.
Yeah, so they are nonprofit? I thought they make like billions of dollars on those tests.
They do, yeah, but they are not for profit.
Huh. Okay.
And they've been spending a little bit on us. But so when I said we needed to assess how students are doing, we were looking for a way to assess. Obviously, developing our own assessment would be very difficult. So we looked around, and apparently the research team at ETS developed this assessment that's been pretty much sitting on the shelf there. And we convinced them to let us commercialize it. So we're now bringing this assessment to the market. It literally is released. The first version is being released early next week. And we are starting to sell it in the US K-12 market. For the last half a year, we've been actively studying the market, doing lots and lots of discovery interviews, figuring out the pricing and so on. So we've done our homework on this market. We think we got a handle on it. But what we need your help with is figuring out, so this is our strategy for the K through 12, is figuring out how viable this assessment will be in higher education, adult education, and foreign ESL markets. So if you think about it, you assume that students going into college know how to read, right? They do know how to read, but a lot of them must struggle. And when they struggle, let me give you an example. Let's say you have a dyslexia, right? It may be severe, it may be mild. The mild dyslexia, it only sort of flares up if you're really under stress. And you may not even notice it in high school, but when you go to college, there's a lot more stress, there's a lot more reading. And if you're reading just, a quarter slower than the rest of the students, because of the sheer volume of reading, you already need, a quarter time more to read. So basically, the slower you read, the harder it is for you to process information, the more you're going to fall behind. And for colleges, they actually don't have an ability to assess that in advance. Sure, students are required to take SAT, TOEFL, but you can get a decent score, and schools are trying to make money. So their admission standards vary. And the more you go into community colleges, so everybody who couldn't get into prestigious college, they end up going to community colleges. And there you go. You've got lots of remedial classes there for reading and lots of turnover. So for colleges, students are a product. or customer, sorry, not the product. So basically, if a student flunks out, then the school loses money. So it is beneficial for a college to be able to identify students who are at risk, so they can provide them with supports early on before they start failing their classes and be at risk at failing, flunking out completely. And then the other aspect is the adult market, adult education. There's lots of adult education courses that could be at community colleges, at regular universities, and also standalone. These are adults who may not have graduated from high school. Now they're trying to catch up. They're trying to usually get the GED, the equivalent of the high school diploma, so they can get a better job and maybe potentially even go to college. So in adult education market, there's actually right now 2 assessments that are required in US by federal government. And with any luck, Read Ready will become the 3rd required, one of the 3 required assessments that need to be taken by every adult. And we're right now collaborating with the University of Memphis to do a study with adults taking this assessment, so we can get some statistical data that would enable us to be approved for federal level. And finally, the foreign ESL markets, right? There's over 1 billion of students in the world learning English, or 1 billion people, I would say, not necessarily students. So Read Ready assessment in the United States is rated for students from 3rd grade up and through high school. So basically, any student, any age around the world who is studying English, if they can read as well as a third grader in the US, they would already benefit from this assessment. By the way, the assessment helps figure out which skills students lacking. There's actually 5 foundational skills that were identified by researchers as sort of the pivot, or the stepping stones, so to say, starting from the word recognition and decoding, then to vocabulary, then morphology, understanding how words are put together, sentence processing, understanding how sentences are put together, and finally, final 5th foundational skill is the efficiency of reading, the speed at which you can process information when reading silently. And the 6th one is more of a composite skill, is the reading comprehension. And in fact, when you take tests like SAT, GRE, and so on, they measure your ability to do reading comprehension. But they assume that you have all of the 5 preceding skills set. But if you're lacking in any one of those preceding skills, then it's going to affect the reading comprehension and it's going to slow you down. So the value proposition of this Read Ready assessment is that it helps find out why students are struggling to read, so that you can personalize and focus instruction on the specific skills where students are lacking. So we obviously we're focused on the K-12 market right now. We don't have the resources to try and explore all of these other markets. So this is where we hope you can help us do preliminary market analysis and see if this is the market we should enter. So I should mention that our product is already used in about 30 different colleges, mostly for supporting students with reading disabilities. And
is it possible to show us what this product looks like? So it takes any text and converts it to basically voice, right? Is it something that you can share a screen and show us how it works?
Yeah, I think so.
And then another question, obviously, so you talk about it in the context of education for people who perhaps have difficulties with reading. Can it be used, like, for example, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, or maybe if I have to do some readings for college, I can read. I just don't want to spend the time sitting in front of the computer or a book and read. Maybe I want to listen to that book or to that reading, to that article while, I don't know, cleaning my house or I don't know, jogging. So
Yeah.
is that something that it can be used for as well?
Yep. Yeah, we have, I was going to say that we have over 100,000 consumer users all
Like
around the
individual
world,
subscribers?
individual subscribers who use it either free or pay for the premium access. So I'm just going to log into the web-based platform.
And so it exists as an app and as a web-based platform, like website?
Yeah, you can use Capti on the iPhone or iPad, or you can use it online anywhere. I mean, even on Android, but I would use it only on a tablet because it's wasn't formatted properly for the Android phone. But some people manage to even run it online on the Android phone. So when you use it as a consumer, you have pretty much just playlists. This is where you can put any content that you want to listen to.
So like a PDF file would work as well?
Yep. So I would go press add track and that select one of the sources from which I want to import content. And if the university LMS administrator connects it, then Blackboard and Canvas become available. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to log in there. So maybe I'll go to my Google Drive. I have different content here I can import. So just pick a PDF, but we support about 15 different file formats.
So it can work with any text file, I assume. Can it also recognize text in like a picture format?
Yes. Let's see why was it not opening right now. So one of the things you can do on the phone, my computer is having some kind of...
Well, I think with Zoom, sometimes things slow down because it does take a lot of... So, but basically it would open just about any text file and you can just read it, right?
Yep. On your
websites as well?
Online. Huh?
Websites as well? Like if you wanted to go to like a website?
Yeah, so for the websites, see, I was just on Google. Well, let's say go to New York Times, or let's do Wikipedia better. Since New York Times is a commercial resource. Well, so one of the things you could do is just select anything and then use a translation or definition, or just look at the text. I'm gonna play the text.
Yeah, I'm not sure not sure if the sound will work well with Zoom.
Well, let's see.
This article is about the series of novels. For other uses, including related topics and derivative works, see Harry Potter disambiguation. For the
Can you hear it?
It's not bad at all. That's pretty natural.
So okay, this is Capti reading. You can customize the way text looks. Obviously, this was more for students who need higher contrast. This is open dyslexic font for students with dyslexia. You could set it up whichever way you want it. You can even hide away this. You don't have to look at the text. You can just use it as a player. Select something and then press play.
Oh, so you can go directly with
release of the first novel, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
Huh, cool.
And then you can also do the translations. So let's see if
So it works with multiple languages?
Yep. And it should automatically detect the language.
Huh, interesting.
So yeah, I can do translation here.
So let me go back to the comments just to see what countries we have here today. I remember there was France. I remember there was Poland, Hungary. So I wonder if you can take something in one of those languages. So
Poland, Hungary.
let me see. We had Jamaica, Poland, France, Russia, Taiwan. So can we, I don't know, take Polish or French?
Yeah, we're going to translate this word to French. So I'm translating just one word. And this does some linguistic analysis. It's a long sentence.
Marian, if you can maybe then confirm if it's doing a good job or not.
Attirer.
Attirer.
So yeah, read in French, but we can do like the whole passage and do a translation and listen to this.
Harry Potter est une série de romans fantastiques écrits par elle et commercial JS39, auteur britannique J.K. Rowling. Les romans racontent la vie des commercial JS.
Sounds pretty French to me. I cannot assess the quality, but it seems, yeah, very nice.
So this is just how to read.
Oh yeah, Marion from France said it does a good job. All right, okay. We have validated the quality, so very nice.
So this is, I can add this entire article. If I don't want to read it like this, I can add the entire article to my playlist. Right now.
Oh, so it automatically knows how to extract it, so it's not mixed up with, okay.
Yeah, so here's the article we just extracted, and now you can listen to this. Right.
Actually, that would be very helpful for the foreign language learners, but also, you know, just busy people.
Yeah, and so I'm going to try this again. Go to Google Drive, and you asked me about pictures, right? So there's a PNG, for example. I can import a PNG.
Yeah, PNG. That's what the portable graphics something, right? So
yep,
that's pictures.
Yeah, we'll automatically OCR it. And if I were using Capti on the iPhone, I can just snap a picture of something in a book or a magazine, and that would import the document.
So why the discrimination? Why not Android?
Well, because it takes so much more effort to make it to work on the Android, because there's so many different form factors and Android versions. And then people don't want to pay for it on Android.
So the Android users agree.
Yeah, Android users sort of they have this reputation for wanting to use free products, and it works for Google, where you are the product.
Right. Yeah, attention merchants. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I know companies that have made millions of dollars on the on apps on the iOS, and they would create a version for Android and make a zero.
Yeah.
$100 maybe. So okay, so I'm going to import a document in the original layout. This is a PDF without OCRing. Okay, so coming back to my playlists. So zoom out a little bit. So this is the picture that I took. Well, not picture. I mean, yeah, picture we took earlier in a book, about alligators and crocodiles. So this is OCR'd from picture to text.
Mm-hmm. Actually, this is pretty accurate.
Yeah, so it does mess up occasionally. I see this didn't understand something in the bottom, and you didn't realize this is a word. I guess it was too blurry or something, not enough contrast. But yeah, typically does a very good job with OCR. And this is Abby Fine Reader, so just integrated.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the PDF I just added from Google Documents.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we have a few questions I see right here. So one about the business model. So there is a question here about individual versus school subscription, but also what is the difference in the product that goes to schools, universities versus individual subscriptions. So what's the business model essentially?
So we have a subscription or freemium model for consumers. We're not focusing on it. So if anybody wants to use it as a consumer, they're welcome. What we found is that the customer acquisition cost is higher than what we're getting from the customers in the consumer market right now. Unless maybe if we raise the prices on everybody, but we didn't want to do that. So in the school market, we're charging an annual subscription fee that is on a per student basis. And there's sort of multi-tiered system. The more users the school buys, the cheaper it becomes per student, and becomes more of a like 1,000 students, you know, regardless of whether you have like 950. It makes it easier to calculate prices. So for the
once a school pays, you said 8,000 per year, for example, that covers access for all of the students at that school.
Right.
Could be like 1,000 people.
So we sell Capti, and we sell now we're an official distributor of read-ready assessment. So 8,000 would include everything, but schools can buy just the Capti part or just the assessment part, which is somewhere probably in the range of 4,000 or so, 4 or 5,000
for the whole year.
For the whole year.
That's actually not much. So it literally comes up to like $5 per student.
Yeah.
So for a year, so that's actually a very good price.
Yeah, and if a college buys it, so it can be as low as like $1 to a student, depending on the size of a college and what they're getting.
And then individual subscriptions, how much are those?
From free to probably about $20 per year. We're charging for
per year, not per month.
Oh, well, you can buy it per month. You can buy it per month. It's like maybe $1.
That's very inexpensive. I mean, most of the services obviously we buy usually what's like $10, $15, $20 a month. I mean, most of the things like.
Yeah, well, people don't want to pay even for that.
Huh. For some reason, I thought it would be more expensive.
Yeah. Well, okay. Then there's also additionally, like if you want to use OCR, optical character recognition capability, that you buy separate. It's pay as you go, 5 cents per scan. If you want to buy a premium voice, that's like additional fee, like $5 per voice, but it's a lifetime.
Very reasonable. In fact, I think it would be even reasonable for countries that are not as, let's call it, rich as the United States. I think that kind of range, anybody can afford it if they need it.
I mean, if you have an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you paid like, I don't know, even if you bought an older one for $500 or $600, I think, adding another $10, $20, $30 a year, that's definitely worth it.
And if you use it online, there's a way to use it online, and it's an annual subscription plus. There's a subscription voice actually. If you're a consumer, we charge separately for the voice. Yeah. There was a question about what's the difference between the consumer and the school version.
Yeah.
Right. So the consumers, they just have this playlist. They fill it up with their content, anything they want to read, any documents, web pages, they read it. For schools, there's a teacher involved typically, right? In the colleges, the students are still sort of like consumers, but there is an organization account with the roster that needs to be imported, all the students that are in the school, potentially even classes, and so on. And if a teacher is actively taking a role, then they can distribute these playlists. They can distribute the reading materials to students. They can do different types of assignments. They can assign read ready.
So it almost becomes like a course management system.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, we don't compete with LMSs, but we sort of add on top. So you can do accessible tests. You can create a test. We provide accommodations during the test, but also provide the test delivery platform. But you could, once you create this test, you can import it into the Canvas or Blackboard. So students just need to click the button in their Canvas or a Blackboard or Schoology LMS, and then it takes them, automatically logs them into Capti. So yeah, we do different types of assignments, and then teachers can monitor the log, get the report. So this is, for example, reports for the read-ready assessment for sort of a classroom of students. You could get a summary view with national and local averages, statistical distribution. So there's only a few samples here. And for individual students, you can go in and get their scores and specific recommendations on how to improve specific reading skill.
So it is much more than just simply reading the text. I mean, it actually does effectively, like it almost looks like Canvas, like a, slice of it at least, right?
Yeah, there's a rostering involved, but we integrate with Canvas, so you can do a single sign-on through Canvas, and we can import the roster from Canvas or from other sources. You know, so if students get their logins, teachers have a different level of permissions. Teachers can push out content to students in an accessible way, and then now they can also assess students' reading. So the way I think that the colleges would want to use this is to use the Read Ready as a screener to screen all of the incoming freshmen to see where they stand in their reading ability, and then take action if any students are falling behind.
Very interesting.
If they're lacking a certain skill, then they can, provide accommodations. I mean, well, the simplest thing you can do, give students a text-to-speech solution such as Capti. Right? That's one of the recommendations. So students can keep up with reading. Sometimes students are ashamed, or they're not aware that they have a slight learning disability. They may have coasted through high school without a problem, but once they get to college, they have more stress, more load, lots of coursework, lots of reading, and they start falling behind.
Let's talk a little bit about your clients and market. Competition and market. So one, there are a few questions about languages, but also a related question is countries. So the software works with multiple languages. Is it still English being the main language, or it doesn't really care? It can read any text or translate any text in any language?
I can read just about any text. Translates to about 100. These are languages in which it can read. Right?
So I assume that's all kind of machine learning, right? So it's not like, you guys teach it how to do it. It just learns somehow on its own, or how does it, what's the mechanics of this translation and language? And it's a fascinating topic, but I assume I've heard that, for example, Google team participated at some point in some of those competitions, and the software would be able to do the translations or read the text, even when nobody on the team, none of the engineers speaks that language. Is that true? Is that how it works?
Yeah, the Google already developed the translation. We're actually using Google Translation underneath. Google is one of our partners. But we do something on top of what they do as well. And the voices that we have there, they're from not from Google. Let's see, there's a Hungarian voice, but I think this is the default voice on a Mac.
But that the whole engine, so that's developed by someone else, right? It's not like you have a Hungarian voice actor in your company that records all of that, right? You just
no. There's basically companies that manufacture voices, and they spend decades developing those engines.
Such a fascinating topic, honestly.
Yeah, but it is
So it works with multiple languages. Then, in terms of your clients, so I assume the United States. You said you have a bunch of universities subscribed in the United States, and you said about 100,000 users. So is it mainly US or also all around the place?
We have consumers all around the place, but the institutional users are mainly in the North America.
And there is a question about competition. So you seem to be pretty unique. Are there any other companies that do this kind of stuff? Do you have direct competitors?
We have, so when we were in the accommodations market, right, just helping students cope with reading, providing text-to-speech, font adjustments, and so on. There were a couple competitors that have presence in the schools and colleges, namely TextHelp and Kurzweil. But now that we ventured into the literacy market, there are new competitors. There's established assessment tools out there which are surprisingly, the ETS has the broadest assessment out there of the skills. It's most comprehensive, most research-based, but there's already competition that we need to go against, and we're looking for sort of a niche because we're still an early product. in assessments compared to other more developed with lots and lots of reports. So that's what we're trying to catch up with in the next half a year. Let's see. Now, what's interesting in everything, of course, there's aspects of uniqueness. There's recently was some bug that popped up that was annoying in our accommodation system. Was reading something that wasn't there, and one of the institutes reached out to us and said, "If you don't fix this in the next week, we're gonna stop. We're gonna switch to a competitor." And we're like, "Well, we can't. Our release cycle. We're gonna fix it probably in about a month." And then they come back to us. No, we're not gonna switch to a competitor. We couldn't find anything better than you.
Yeah. Well, that's a unique product. In your challenge, you actually recommended a couple of books for the students, and one of them was Competing Against Luck. And I actually bought it and just finished it a few days ago, the Jobs Theory. So
I
if
thought
you
you
had
were
to
the one who recommended it to me.
Hmm?
I read every book that you recommend. I thought you were
Yeah,
the one.
no, but this one you put it in the challenge, and I'm like, okay, well, that sounds interesting. So I just bought it on Audible. So like I have the Audible version here.
Yep.
You know, I still have like 10 minutes to go to finish fully it. But so I started reading that, actually extremely useful. By the way, students, there is this book recommended in your, CaptiVoice challenge instructions. I just finished it in the last few days, found it extremely useful, extremely, like I never thought about X-Culture as, like what kind of job people hire to do. Like, so what kind of job people hire CaptiVoice to do? Did you do that analysis for yourself?
Yeah. So you have to constantly remind yourself, even though when you read the book, it sort of turns your world upside down. It's like, wow.
You don't think about a product.
The basic thing is that the customers hire you to get the job done, hire your product, and they do a big hire when they buy it the first time, and then they do a small hire every time they come back to it to use it.
Right.
I know both of those are super important to be handled. And it's not about competition, right? It's not the direct competitor. It's everything else. It could be totally surprisingly different.
But
the biggest competitor is non-use, right? Non-use is the biggest competitor.
And exactly. Non-use, yes. So do nothing. So just not read.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and anything like in a classroom, our competitor is any product that the teacher is using, because we're competing for the time of a teacher and student. So what made us unique once we've made this last pivot is that now we're a single tool, an all-in-one solution that does the assessment, improving reading and accommodations, and all of those are related. And we realize that there's no such product in the market. There's only assessments separately with some instructional components that you can improve reading, but they don't accommodate reading. And on the other side, there's tools that accommodate reading, like competitors I mentioned, but they don't do assessments. And so basically, they're not improving anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So then in terms of geography, so since your product works with multiple languages, it's definitely possible that it may find its market, for example, in the European Union. It seems to me that many countries might be interested there. It even seems to me like, many Asian or African countries have education in English, if the language of the interface is English. Mm-hmm. So you would be open to expanding into all of those markets, or you have some preferences or reservations as to where you can do business?
We would like to expand in any market, but I'm guessing that the English-speaking countries will be easier, and anything that has to do with learning English will be easier.
But wouldn't that mean that also countries that have a different official language, but for the schools that teach English, like English as a second language or English as the instruction language of the school, wouldn't they be also very interested then?
Yeah, it's any school that has English as a language of instruction, but the most interested. Our interest right now is exploring the viability of the read-ready assessment in combination with our product in the ESL markets for adults in outside of the United States and in the United States, as well as adult literacy and higher education in the United States.
So would it be fair to say, in terms of the customers, that you're more interested in institutional subscriptions, not individual at this stage?
That's correct. Yes, because for individuals, the difficulty is that you have to spend money on advertising,
Right.
and it's a different type of need, different type of support.
Yeah.
We realize we need to focus on something, and the institutional market has proven so far successful, and we're ramping up and scaling in this area.
Right. Now, Marian, Noor, I see your questions. I added Noor here. Noor, you have a very good, complicated question. So I thought if you want to unmute your microphone and ask it. And meanwhile, I'll go to Marian's question. So you mentioned that read ready option. So how is it different? What exactly does it do compared to the basic function?
So read ready. I'm not sure if I have a presentation, but let me check.
So that's something that I assume specifically for the teachers, right? So making their life easier.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Oops. Read ready. Let's see what I can. I want to spend another half hour, but I'll quickly go over. So that's what ETS has developed. I got the Zoom thing in the middle of the screen, right? So it's a diagnostic assessment. I spent close to 15 years on this research. It was actually developed for adults, and then they adapted it for the earlier grades. So it has 6 subtests, a different level of difficulty. Most students can finish it in 45 minutes, the entire thing. And so these are the skills that I mentioned, right? That we're testing: recognition, decoding, vocabulary, morphology, sentence processing, efficiency of reading and reading comprehension. So most of the schools right now are measuring just reading comprehension, which doesn't provide you with the insights into why students are struggling, right? And it's assumed that students by 4th grade would have the strong foundational skills, these first 5, but they don't. And yes, it's just that students tend to fall behind, and they keep falling behind, and they go to college even, and they're struggling there, and they're at risk in the K through 12. They're at risk in college. So the assessments in schools tend to be used in K through 12 3 times a year, like in the beginning, middle, and end, as benchmark to see how students are doing, if they're improving, to identify the weaknesses and strengths, and then focus on the weaknesses and
basically
work on
support for reading instruction,
right.
reading learning.
Yeah, and then if you identify the students are struggling, let's say with morphology, they have difficulty understanding how words are put together, how the suffixes and prefixes change the meaning, then you can do actual focus instruction on that.
Yeah.
If you help students overcome that barrier, then their comprehension improves and they move forward. The way I like to mention, to describe this assessment is if you have a fever or you come to a doctor, so that's measuring reading comprehension is like measuring your body temperature, right? And if the doctor just gives you the Advil, this is what happens if you measure just reading comprehension. Here's
right.
Maybe reduce your fever, maybe give you like accommodations or something. But you really want the doctor to do a panel of tests to see what's wrong with you, so they can treat a specific issue. And this is what this assessment does. It helps identify the reason why students are struggling, so that the teacher can prescribe something. And we actually provide recommendations on what to do. And many of those are tied back into our product. It's just the timing that it takes to take it.
All right. Well, I have a few more questions about marketing, but Noor, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, first of all, hey everyone. So
yeah, go ahead. We can hear you. Yes.
Just let me put on my. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear. Please go ahead.
So I'm from Pakistan, and my question is this: that if students are targeting marketing, if we are targeting the students, then would they be able to, pay enough for this app if they really want to use it? Because youth, our students, are already having a lot of expenses, and they have to, at some point they have to bear all the expenses in their, middle or in middle of school or in higher school on their own. And for that, if they really want to use it, then would they be able to afford it, especially those who are in need of using it?
Well, that's why we're selling to schools. Now our product can be used at the base level, could be used free of charge. So it would provide with some limitations. Students can use text to speech and use it without paying a subscription fee. They could buy a voice, for example, for as little as $2, I think, and use the free capability of the product. Now, if a school buys it, obviously it's much better for us and for the students.
Would you be open to the idea of giving discounts to schools in countries with a low income level?
Oh, yes.
I imagine that, $8,000 for an American school, that's nothing. I mean, they spend that much probably in a given day on, I don't know, lunch. But, $8,000 for a school in, let's say, Pakistan, that is probably a substantial amount of money. So would it be negotiable? How would it work?
Absolutely. Well, one of the tasks, I think, and in the X-Culture project is to help fix the price, right? Help identify the appropriate price level for the given geography.
Yeah. Yeah, X-Culture does have that problem a lot because we have participants, I think, in 72 countries this semester or something like that. And again, for some countries, no matter what price you set, I mean, let's say $45 per kid, for example. $45 per kid for the whole semester in the United States, that's nothing. But then again, in, for example, Ukraine or Pakistan, that's a substantial amount of money. And so how do you do it? Do you set a different price than for different countries? But then it becomes confusing. Do you offer stipends for some countries? Again, kind of becomes a little bit more complicated. So there seems to be no easy solution. So I don't know. I mean, but talking about marketing then and pricing, so how do you do it now? How do you first advertise your product? Do you use online advertisement? Do you use on the ground sales agents? And then when the time comes to pricing, so is it a fixed price for everyone, or is it negotiated on a case-by-case basis? How do you approach it now?
Well, there is a list price, for everybody. But if some school tells us we can't do it, we have budget issues, we could find a way to help them get an introductory discount. There's also lots of grants that schools can apply for. We're actually going to roll out a separate webpage just listing all of the funding sources that schools can tap into in the United States. We offer our own grant. Actually, that's a promotion we've just launched. You asked me about how do we market. This is one of the ways to market. First of all, we are doing a national webinar in the US with an invited speaker next week, actually on Wednesday. And then people who come to the webinar, they're potential leads, but also we will tell them we have a CapT grant, a literacy grant, that if you apply for that, there's a chance, an opportunity for the school to get free access to CapT. Whereas everybody else who applies, who doesn't win, again become potential customers. Schools, regardless of whether they have money or don't have money, they like free stuff as well as people, so they'll be applying. Most of our marketing is done through email. We do email campaigns. We do webinars.
So emails go into what, like school principals or?
Yeah, principals, different level of administrators, and you can purchase their contacts. We like to do it more of an inbound lead generation. We don't want to, tell them, here's our product, let's talk about it. It's better to say, here's a very interesting webinar that would help you learn something, right? And then that way, when they register for the webinar, we know that they have interest in this topic at least.
Right.
We also do a trade show. So at the end of tomorrow, I'm leaving for a trade show in Orlando, warmer part of the country, to enjoy a few days there. And so the trade show people come up to the booth and they ask you questions and show them a demo.
So let's imagine Noor here, let's imagine that her school or the school she knows wants to buy a product like this. What can or should she do to help that school start using the product? What would be the steps that she need to take to explore the possibility of collaboration and make it work?
She would connect the buyer in that school to one of our sales reps. And actually, okay, so I have a couple more slides to wrap up with before we finish. But yeah, one of the things that if you choose to work with our product or with our company, one of the things we want you to do is to find the buyers, find the appropriate buyers in different markets. So I said there's 3 markets that we want you to explore, but you may find something else that we didn't realize that could be a big market. So if you choose to work with us, you will get to do customer discovery interviews, and that's what that book that you just finished.
Yes.
That's what they say. It's critical in that book to understand what job you're solving for the customer, what the customer needs are, how's the customer feeling when they're making the decisions, and so on. Actually, you'll get to do what if you were to start a new company. These are the steps that you need to take. You first do the customer discovery interviews to identify the customer and their need and the jobs that they need to do. Find the buyers, find the influencers. So a big part of our project would be going out and talking to people, which is a critical skill in business. And if you are starting
very much so, yeah.
Yeah, so you also learn to do market and operation management analysis. Vasily will teach you that, and you will also learn how easy or difficult it is to market and sell education technology products. You will help improve literacy and improve access to education, improve English language learners study more effectively, and hopefully improve lives of people with disabilities, because they are the ones among those who struggle to read. But also students struggle because they don't know English, or there's socioeconomical issues, and so on. And you yourself will get a free CaptiVoice license. And you're just talking about more, but if she finds that her school wants to buy Capti, and she introduces that school to our sales reps, she'll get a 10% commission. So
we actually had in the past cases when some students liked it so much, going and talking to prospective customers, that they actually became regional representatives for the companies. So they talked to 1 or 2, it actually worked. They thought, can I represent you in my country? And the company says, sure, why not? And so they basically made it into a job. So.
Yeah, and you get a shot at an internship or employment. You can create a job for yourself. But even if you don't, you don't want to be a salesperson. You want to be you want to pursue something else. Somehow people are not being taught to do discovery interviews, and it's critical in any job, whether you're a researcher, a business person, or you're working for the government. Before you create any kind of product, create any kind of event, you need to understand who the customer is for that. And it's always about the sale. Even if you're applying for grad school, you're still selling yourself.
Yeah, making his products is easy. Selling them, that's where usually the challenge is. Yeah.
And that's a naive technology startuppers think that they will build it, and we will build it, they will come.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's how we started as well. And then we first thought, okay, maybe research was difficult. Coming up with ideas is difficult. Ideas are worthless without the execution.
Yeah, execution. Yeah. I would. Yeah, I don't know. What's your assessment? Idea versus a finished product. I mean, the idea is worth what? How much?
It's like worthless. There's the dime a dozen. There's so many ideas that are just sitting out there and not being developed.
Yeah, exactly. So
execution is difficult, right? You think that you develop a product, that's going to be the most challenging part, but no. Once you develop a product, you need to sell it. nothing sells by itself unless it's some by
That's true.
miracle.
So ideas are
That's
easy,
better.
execution is difficult, but even when you execute it and you have the product, that's when the whole challenge begins. So now you have to sell it, find the customer. So that's a big challenge.
Yeah, and without understanding the customer fully, you don't have a product.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, we have more questions, right?
Yeah, we have another webinar in 3 minutes. Just a couple of quick questions that we have here. One, do teachers have to pay extra for the using the reading assessments, or is it part of the subscription?
It's part of the subscription for the schools. Well, is it a different price for CAPTI or assessment and CAPTI assessment together?
But it's not like per assignment, pay per assignment or anything?
No, it's one-time fee per year.
And then also the program works with multiple languages as far as the language itself, but the interface is only in English, or you can also have interface in different languages?
On the iOS, it's translated to 10 languages. On a computer and the web, it's just English, which is why I think that the web-based platform is most powerful, and this is where I think we should focus on students who are learning English, right, or are speaking English would be best.
Yeah, and I think other than that, we've gone through pretty much all of the questions, but we will see, maybe we'll do another webinar in the middle of the semester once the students have some ideas. But students, if any questions arise as you work on this challenge, obviously just send an email and we will forward it to the company, this one or any other company, and you'll get your answer that way, so no problem at all. So we will work with you throughout the semester.
Yeah, and for students who choose our project, there's a good listing of questions that you can ask during the interview. There's resources.
Yes, yeah, actually one of the advantages of the CaptiVoice challenge is that it's extremely detailed. Some of the challenges that we have now, they just give you the general questions. Here you have a very, very detailed guideline, suggested questions during the discovery interviews, suggested readings for some of the different questions. I actually found it to be very, very useful, like links to lots of useful resources. So you will definitely not be left alone to your own devices. So there is a lot of support provided. All right, well, thank you so much. So let's stop here. We'll switch to the next webinar. Truly appreciate the information, and thank you all students who participated, and maybe I'll see some of you with the Zen CV webinar that starts in a couple of minutes.
All righty. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for your time.